to urge you, as you sit and listen to your candidates, to go to Google Play Store and then download the One of Africa app. So my copy TikTok, where you can interact with your friends and family. It is an app which was created by one of our own, Annette Zot, and it's an app that promotes African content and information. So you can download it and be part of the 10,000 users plus who are currently using that app. Yalaman Noi, a about Lay Jowney, a secret without handle like voice dinner. Ijayo ni Ipupo, Radio Noichie, Koprani, Nepekira social media platforms, we are live. Oinga Rain, Ibonia Ijaun, I set our the audience, Noiboyo, Marika, Arai Kudasi, and need candidates, and set a che, the Rodia Wadiko to Mapapian. Ipuadumoto, I Nimositadio, Nimoebe, Esawa Jedi into the candidate, people took their time and brought their questions late. So, Kopan, in the Sapa, today, when the Kakona said, Terena Timoris, you only bring it over to us. Terena Timori, kind of candidates out of our park. Right now, I want to take this opportunity and pass over this microphone to the colleagues of mine who are moderating this debate. Yalaman Noi.
One Uganda, one people.
Thank you so much, MC. Well, I want to thank you, the candidates, for honoring our invitations. I want to take you through the rules of the debate. But the first rule is we expect decorum from the audience. Why we are here, and this debate is streamed live on a number of platforms. And it's live on radio, so we need to minimize all the noise. Let's listen to our candidates so that we understand what they are telling us. This is not a rally, therefore motto, woye, please. Let's listen to each other. You have your time to cheer your candidates later on. We don't want to interrupt your cheering, but please minimize all those voices. For now, we need to listen and we understand what the candidates are telling us. We don't need to waste their time. One, dear candidates and members of the audience, we expect respect for each other. Each candidate will be given equal time to respond to questions. Candidates will address the question asked, and let's avoid personal attacks in case we are making references. Moderators may interrupt only to enforce time or clarify on procedure, but also for further follow-up questions. We do not expect interruptions when another candidate is speaking. Respectful language is required, and the debate will cover basically the roles of a member of parliament. Nothing beyond that. That is like all the other debates. Will be given time to make your closing statements. So in case there are areas you've not touched, and the moderator, and your time is up, please note down some of those issues. At time of the closing statement, you will be at freedom to elaborate more. The first instance will be about your manifesto, where you'll be asked a manifesto question, where you will explain what you intend to do for your people in the next parliament. Those are the key areas. We also expect you to manage your time well when your time comes. Those are the few rules, and of course, rules of engagement. Like you still have two candidates, one is missing. That is the NRM candidate, Jessica Amigo, who confirmed that she would be here. But as we were waiting, when we tried to contact her the whole day, it was difficult, couldn't. But just a few minutes before we got started, is when she picked up a call and she gave an apology that she lost someone and they are taking the body at home. That's the reason she gave just a few minutes before. I think it is 10 minutes before this debate started. That's after we gave a call. She did communicate officially or earlier. We had to contact her 10 minutes before we started. That's when we got that response. Otherwise, thank you so much, the two candidates that have turned up. We wish you the best. I hand over to Stephen, who will get started with the first session. I'll get back later for my session where I shall look at gender equality and women's rights in relation to the roles of the women of parliament. Since you are two candidates, I think we'll have enough time to explain so many number of issues. Just like yesterday we had 3 candidates, they really enjoyed the time here. Thank you so much. Peterson, Ilias, my name.
Thank you very much. You know, democracy thrives when the citizens are well informed. And today's debate is not about personalities or political parties. It is about ideas, the leadership, and solutions to the challenges facing the women and the people in our localities. The families, the youth, the persons with disabilities, and our communities at large. It is about accountability, the integrity, and the future we want Soroti District. Audience, especially those that have labored to come to accompany candidates, we only call for maximum order. You will be allowed to cheer, but be mindful that your candidates will be utilizing the same time. And we also call for the decorum to ensure that this debate is orderly. My name is Stephen Ojacho. I am happy to inform you that I am one of your voters. And tonight, we want to thank you, the two, who have labored to come, who have responded to the call for the civic action. It is the beginning of success in leadership, but also it is part you are the two lawyers, and Soroti is blessed. Soroti district is blessed to have the two options for the lawyers. I want to speak specifically for those of you who are here. I will not speak for those who are not here. For now, I know that you are a serious candidates. And this takes us to the opening of our debate. Peterson segregated. He aggregated the debate in which the sections we shall have right from the representation, budgeting, and so on and so forth. But we want to start with the introduction. And that takes me to begin with the Honorable Adeki. You hold up the microphone. Honorable Anne, you have been in Parliament. We know that it's not your first time to contest. You have successfully and consistently been sent to Parliament by the people. What is that special thing you have on table that makes you ask for the people of Soroti to trust you again?
Thank you very much. Good evening, our viewers, our listeners, the followers of all the social media handles, and our panelists, our moderators, and my fellow candidates. Good evening to you all. My name is Adeke Anibajo. Mr. Amodin did a very apt introduction, gave my CV, so I can't say more than that. But you ask me, what is that unique trait that I bring? I bring integrity, I bring consistency, I bring authenticity, a proven track record of leadership. I bring credibility, I bring honesty. In all my years of leadership, by the grace of God, I have been privileged to be a leader from a really young age. My experience has built me. Here I sit or stand before you with years of experience, with so many lessons learned, with a lot of knowledge at hand, all that I will use to consistently deliver for my people of Soroti district. So I believe that what makes me unique are these traits that I have shared with you. And it is the reason why I have been consistently serving. Of course, that with an added advantage of the abundance of God's mercies. So that is what I bring on the table. Thank you.
You have spoken with a soft mind, but with a soft voice but a tough mind. And that takes us to the Honorable Igabo. You have asked the people of Soroti to vote for you. Why do you want them to vote for you? What are the problems you have seen in Soroti district that makes you feel you can be the right person to create the solutions
My tripod stand doesn't.
that can sustain the
You can just tilt it up. this is the end.
No, you put it down, you tilt this, take one, then you lock it.
No, I want to erase.
Audible, but I'll try my best.
You are.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to use both English and article because of the listenership that is with us today. That is why
We are giving guidance that we insist on English. The debate is in English.
It's well.
It's because in Parliament, the main language is always English.
I was only mindful for my voters listening out there. Because right now I need them. It's well. English is not a problem
This is
at all.
English.
It's well with me.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen present, the organizing team, voters of Soroti District, women and men of God, good evening. Praise the Lord. My name is Gabriels Joan. A brief introduction was made of me, not fully. I would only like to add a few things. I would say leadership is born and made at the same time. But I believe that one has to be first born a leader. And because they are born, they have so many stages of leadership in their lives. Joan Rose Gabu. My mic is a little bit... Joan Rose Gabu has been a leader from primary school to secondary school. At campus, I was a vice president of Law Society. I was also the Secretary General for the Guild Government 2023. As I come in and as I graduated in 2024, here I come and it's an electoral year. Rose Joan Gabu is before the women and men of Soroti District to vote her in for the woman MP position. For so many reasons, ladies and gentlemen. One, I believe we need a change. We've had a good leader. I think Honorable Anna Diki is good. But I know that there's some places that leaders, not everybody can see. There is a space that you will live. One of which I consistently say is the woman member of parliament seat is not to support only women. The seat, the office, is made from affirmative action, which does not mean women only. It simply means bring them to the same table, but do not only support them. So, I bring to Soroti District an equal treatment. I bring to Soroti District a representation in Parliament. I bring to Soroti District a present leader. I bring to Soroti District a leader made from the very grassroots that understands their problem and therefore look for a solution for each of their problems. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think I asked the DJ, the technician, to harden on the sound. Release the sound. Yes. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the two ladies have brought different ideas on the table, and from their introduction, we have listened. And that takes me to Peterson to take her through the next phase.
Thank you so much, Steven, for the session. And thank you so much, and the candidates. In this session, we are going to delve into issues of gender equality and women's rights. And that is a core role, probably, for a woman member of parliament. You will be answering two questions from this session. You you'll have 3 minutes to answer each question. And I'll start with Honorable Anna Lekibadi. And for you, this question, I'll give you 4 minutes to answer because your answers are twofold. One is that you are the incumbent MP, so you have to account. And then you also have to tell us what you will do when you get the next term of office. What practical strategies will you use in Parliament to advance women's rights and gender equality? What practical strategies will you use in Parliament to advance women's rights and gender equality? And that also means that what have you done in Parliament to advance women's rights and gender equality? So there are 2 questions in one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am a social justice activist, a gender and equality activist as well. As for my personal experience, the strategies to advance women's rights and gender equality in Parliament include advocacy on the floor of Parliament, advocacy within the forum of Parliament, advocacy on international platforms. If you can read my history, you will know that I sponsored a motion about sexual harassment, and that directly impacts women and girls. I sponsored a motion on maternal mortality, still which affects women and girls. I have been the mover of the Sexual Offences Bill, which codifies all legislation of sexual offences nature into one piece of legislation. I have been a member of the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. My work with women and girls goes beyond just legislation in Parliament, but advocacy also on the Budget Committee. I have been a member of the Budget Committee. In the financial year of 2023-2024, we had a very heated debate about taxation on menstrual products. And I stood on the floor of Parliament in solidarity with other women members of Parliament to seek the total removal of tax on menstrual products. What's the reason? To make them more affordable for women and girls. You realize that the highest rate of school dropout for our women and girls is accounted to the fact that they cannot afford decent menstrual hygiene amenities. So in order to keep girls in school, I have stood on all those fronts. I have also been a member on platforms like SEDO. I have been a member on platforms like I've participated in journal writings like the Huripect Law Journal of Macquarie University. I've been a legal scholar myself, advancing women's rights in the education sector, women's rights in the social cultural setting, the right to equality, the right to an education, the right to dignity, all which touch women. I have been a mentor to many women and girls, been involved with organizations like Akina Mama or Africa in mentoring young girls in leadership. In my programs in the constituency, I have a program that entails giving soap and basins to expectant mothers to encourage them, to take away shame and encourage them to access health centers at the time of delivery in order to curb the rates of infant and maternal mortality in in Soroti district. That speaks for itself, and I am more than passionate to be a gender activist because I have lived it, I have experienced it, I empathize with my fellow women.
Thank you.
And I stand as a strong voice.
Thank you. You mentioned a number of strategies that will probably use. Please, audience, the strategies you mentioned, you've used some of them already. In the next parliament, how practical do you think you will be using the same strategies probably?
You know, when I'm a moderator, I've been a part of the women's movement for a really long time. I started way back in school, and the women's movement in Uganda has come a long journey. If you hear the tales of people like Miriam Matembe speak to you about where we were in the 80s and how much they struggled to come to where we are, you realize that it's a consistent effort to get to where we are. So all these that I have enlisted before still require more consistency, involving and being a part of platforms like the Uganda Women's Parliamentary Association, a very powerful platform which has helped me as a move of the Sexual Offences Bill to gather support for my bill and other related legislation that affects women's lives. So I plan in the next parliament to consistently engage with fora in parliament, engage on the floor of parliament, through the committees of parliament, the legal parliamentary committee, the health committee, the gender committee. I plan to be on the budget committee still to advocate for cuts on issues that affect women, to advocate for better allocations towards the health sector, because you know the biggest victims are women and children.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me get to candidate Joanne Rosegabu. Which gaps in the current laws most undermine women's rights, and how will you address them when you get to parliament? What gaps in the current laws most undermine women's rights, and how you plan to address them? If I can technical, sound engineer, you could help us and reduce our microphone, but the microphones of the guests, the ones probably will need you to a little get in. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much, Peterson. The question is very much close to what I was just about to discuss. And I was going to say,
Uganda Women Parliamentary Association. And what specific amendments would you recommend in that regard? Because when it comes to budgeting, especially where there are new laws in Parliament, we have seen that your members of Parliament are very strict with the certificate of financial implication.
True.
Why then, when it comes to gender, why then is it not so important like the certificate of financial implication?
Okay. So, the certificate of financial implication is a constitutional requirement that has to be presented before any piece of legislation. So the Ministry of Finance must okay that this piece of legislation, before it is passed or handled, processed, even for first reading, does not have a charge to the consolidated fund, or if it has a charge to the consolidated fund, government has accepted that charge and can bear the charge to the consolidated fund. Now this gender and equity, everyone is knowledgeable about. Peterson, Parliament is a house of representatives. Representatives who are chosen with the free will of people. These representatives don't have to meet a standard criteria that the standard that is given by the Constitution is A-level requirement of sound mind, Ugandan, 18 years of age. But the knowledge of the law and the requirements of it, and the knowledge of gender and women's rights is not knowledge that one would get without investing in it. WOPA is consistently educating our women members of Parliament about this. But you really cannot blame WOPA.
And we have the speaker who's a woman as well.
Yes.
And this issue is just overlooked. Well, thank you so much for your responses. Let me get to candidate Joan Rosenberg. Related to that, how will you mainstream gender perspectives in legislation and parliamentary debates? How will you mainstream gender perspectives in legislation and parliamentary debates? And thereafter, what would you recommend as an ex-official of Soroti District Council on the issues of gender mainstreaming between one parliament and then as an ex-official here at the district level?
Thank you very much, Peterson. I would love to say that much as the discussion is having different diction, we're using different words to mean the same thing. It still comes back to my very first point, which was implementation. As Honorable Adeke deliberated to explain how Parliament is working, and you constantly questioned on how the women member of Parliament have still had gaps there, even after having the Speaker as a woman. I would also want to relate it and say that even at the floor of Parliament, I still say that there is not a lot that should be changed. While in Parliament, what should be changed should be done. It should be back with the people. Like you have said, how then will I relate that to this? I would simply say it's pointless. It's useless to add more and more deliberations, changes in what already is happening without first implementing what already was passed.
We can't just do, and you know that the questions you have voted in Parliament, you are going to legislate. We're asking how you will mainstream gender perspectives. How will you mainstream gender in your legislation?
And I would love to
say, the moment you are an MP, woman member of Parliament, of course, the responses she has given.
Peterson,
that you are there, how will you mainstream gender aspect in your legislation as an MP, such that the women of Soroti district benefit something so that you make a difference from the gaps that are there? That's where you're heading. How will you make a difference in gender mainstreaming when you are legislating, leave alone the implementation here? But at least we expect that you do your role as an MP, such that it's on record you performed your role in gender mainstreaming perspectives. As an MP, the rest you will be exonerated. So how?
I would say, one, I've not been a member of parliament before. So I am not as familiar to the procedures of parliament yet, but I'm yet to address my mind to it as I have the time and opportunity to be taught that, and I'll be present. That is one. Two, I have such a charismatic and bold character. If you've not been seeing it in parliament before, wait and I get there. I am not a type that plays with gender and equality. For me, it will stand out. So as long as I am legislating, you will hear matters on women and me deliberating hard and strong as to the procedures that will happen A, B, and C. I believe I still have the time to learn that now from here, this is what you do here. We consider this the most here. This paper is needed before this. But until then, I'll be able to answer the question. Oh, actually, I'll not answer the question. Until then, you will see my participation.
Until then?
Yes, until then.
Okay, thank you. Until then, so we may not ask you until, well,
On issues of
not procedure. We're not asking about parliamentary procedures. No. This question, we are requiring you to see how we are going to present these issues that affect women. Because gender mainstreaming benefits women more. But then, district level, for example, an ex-official, a woman member of parliament is an ex-official at the district council. And there are a lot of gender mainstreaming issues at the district level as well. So how do you plan as a woman member of parliament as well to make a difference?
one, I plan to sensitize the societies on what seems to be obvious but not. The issues of gender mainstreaming seem obvious. People think that, like the way we all say it, women are as equal as men. But when you come back to the society, it's not. I have not seen women member of parliament come back to the society, talk about them in the spaces where these people get to hear them, and say that if you say women are equal to men, give them the inheritance. And say that if you say women are equal as men, when it's time to speak, listen to them too. I have not seen women do that, so I'll be more practical to sensitize the societies. I will also go ahead to mentor the people that are supposed to get this kind of mentorship, because our society is patriotic.
Okay, thank you. Lastly, on the same, what are the two key issues that you may prioritize in gender mainstreaming? Because you say you will sensitize, yes, good one, but just two key issues you prioritize.
I think everything streams from the patriarchal nature of society, where we think women are not equal to men. It's where we shall say, property you will not get, you have no say in such and such a council. So I think the main two issues are to emphasize more than they have already done on equality. That is one. Two, to also make it more practical by bringing women, skilling them into the activities, jobs, and things that men have been doing that women have not done. That is what I will do.
Mainstreaming is, well, you've responded that you are getting, because gender mainstreaming issues are matters of governance. So when you look at a district council, for example, how the district council, how does it respond to the policies of the ministry on the issues of gender? No, probably. But well, we shall end that session on that. We have exceeded the time allocated for that session. Thank you so much for the responses. This session, thank you for your responses. This session is very important because away from all the other roles of an MP, this is a key role of a woman member of parliament. So maybe going forward, you need to pay attention, and maybe the other debates you'll have, these are the key roles of a woman member of parliament. Away from all the others, these issues of women, gender, equality, and women's rights. Any of you that wins election, please. Gender mainstreaming is a very important issue. It's the only way women will get uplifted. Because all the problems women are facing at the districts, the ministries, stem from the failure to implement, the policies of gender mainstreaming. Maybe an easy one that I can give whichever one in the village understands is PDM. When they say 30% should be for women. But when you go in villages, that's the policy in the PDM. Men and women 30%. We find men have got a demand. Men are there, they're not receiving at all. People appoint executives at the district, they are system. But you check how many women are appointed. The district executives, you find very few women are really given those jobs. Go to our council here, how many women are employed in those departments? The number is still very low. You go to schools, even district service commissions are employing people. How many women are getting their jobs? But the guidelines are there, please. Ensure that it's number of women. So there are so many issues. Please, when you get to parliament, away from all the other roles you will do, we shall remember you greatly. Women will remember you when you handle those issues of gender. When you handle issues of gender much better. Thank you so much. I hand you over to Stephen for the next session.
Thank you very much, Peterson. And, I want to ask the viewers from different social media handles to keep throwing in their comments. We shall be able to have them included in this. We shall be picking them at random and give them an opportunity to participate. As the questions are flowing, there is going to be a section for the questions from the floor. We shall be able to pick a few of them and ask the candidates to respond. So let's keep the discussions flowing. Meanwhile, the members in the House, we also encourage you to be drafting your questions and submit them to Grace. Grace, okay, Kate is sitting just next to me here. You'll be able to receive those questions so that we can be able to pick them on time. The Honorable Anne and John, I am taking you through the role of legislation and lawmaking. As the women members of Parliament, we know that it is the responsibility of every member of Parliament. One of the noble roles is to make laws, the legislation, whether gender responsive, whether what, and so on and so forth. Let me start with the Honorable Anne. I have two questions for you, but I will start with one. We have in the house, but they rarely influence the final laws. So what strategy will you use to shape the legislation, not just speak in Parliament? Yes. What strategies will you use to shape the legislation, not just to speak in Parliament? Shaping the legislation, walking the talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So you say that members of parliament rarely influence the final laws. What I need us to recognize is that our system is a hybrid system that does not have only the legislative arm of government making laws. The executive arm is part of the process. How the requirement of presidential assent makes the executive arm of government part of the lawmaking process. Now,
yes, we know that is the aspect of checks and balances.
Yes. Now, the reason why they may rarely influence the final laws is it's not just about parliament, but we also must realize that parliament is about lobbying. You must educate members of parliament in regards to the law that you are sponsoring. Help them understand its importance. Have enough numbers, because it's a democracy. The minority have their say while the majority have their way. Rally enough numbers to stand with you. Have the 2/3, have the majority of the House stand with you. Have the Attorney General also okay that part, so that when it goes to the President for assent, nothing, it doesn't change so much. So the process is, you must have colleague members of parliament see things the way you see them. Allow to have a meeting of minds on the legislation that you are sponsoring. Have a meeting of minds with the respective ministry or government department or agency that is directly influencing or affected by that legislation, which is going to be in conversation with the Attorney General. And that will ensure that you have government support for that law to pass, for the presidential assent to be achieved. So, aside the talking that you say, you have to lobby behind the closed doors. And this is what parliamentary platforms and fora help us with. Civil society organizations that have a keen interest on particular legislation. If you remember the marriage and divorce bill, many women organizations were behind it, helping members of parliament understand the contents and the need for a new legislation, looking at the old legislation and the changes in case law that has been made by judges on what the marriage and divorce laws and the family setup look like. Those civil society organizations help you to have members of parliament come and have experts speak to them on issues, because an MP is not an expert on everything. But if you teach them and they're able to understand, has been implemented legislation on nuclear marriage and divorce laws and the family setup. So we lobby on such platforms. Those society organizations help you to have members of parliament, have the Attorney General, have experts speak to them on issues, because an MP is not an expert on everything. But if you teach them and they're able to understand, implemented legislation on nuclear marriage and divorce laws and the family. So we don't on such platforms, organizations help you to have members of parliament, have experts speak to them on issues, because in an MP is not experts on everything. But if you teach them and they're able to understand, implemented legislation on nuclear marriage and divorce laws and the family. So we don't on such platforms, organizations help you to have members of parliament, have my political and social direction in 2020. If you followed my journey, you know that I've been an activist for many things, just a political activist, a social activist, a women activist. Those are my ideals. That it's my way of sending a message. And world over, activism has achieved so much. It takes different forms. If you follow my journey, you can really have been an activist for many things. And maybe a scholarly activist who writes all your activism, you put ink to paper. You can be one who uses a microphone to do your activism. And that day we chose a different mode of activism. And my belief is that it sent the message that he needed to be sent. So it was a successful demonstration.
Of term limits. Yes. Why would I support the restoration of term limits? It's quite an obvious question. I am aspiring to a position of term limits. have quite a number, but I had not picked which one I will first. I will pick them depending on how circumstances and how does an understanding. Just the Bible says wisdom is profitable to direct. I have quite a number. I will pick which one I will first. I will pick them depending because wisdom is profitable to direct.
Besides the other social contributions, we are looking at by now, we are going to expect you to open and take the people because you cannot say when you go there, you have social contributions. But if you don't do it, you need to convince them to go to the and that is the reason why I was asking you. Because I know by now that is so what would be to open and take the people just in order for you to pass. You cannot say you go there, but if you don't say you wish to pass, you need to convince them.
The very first one I wish to is as regards to you.
Because I know by now
I keep saying,
so what would be
when you go to the prison, there's a big number of people. Some think they are just old, but when you look at them, they are youth. I tell my people as I campaign that one of the very first things that I am going to place and tell the government for discussion, I keep saying, when you go that Uganda, there's a big should not or should revisit the laws of detaining youth of 30 years. I tell my people as I campaign more than a period of very 6 months if they are not committed capital offenses. Simply because Uganda is an era of industrialization. We are developing. The president constantly talks about industries. We will do this. And the youth is the same labor that we need to work in these spaces. The jobs that we are creating are for these same people. Then what are we doing? If we are retaining this era for a long period of time, what I would also push for is I will push for government to also employ more staff in the judiciary sector. Why? The care of the person and reduce the background for this. Because I think it's really important in my society. Because government has done beautiful time. What I development in infrastructure, high courts are built, but there are few judges working in there. When you look at the long-term judiciary sector, towards the people down there, government has done a lot when it comes to we built hospitals. Some still have to be built, but we don't have the power above them. So rather, I need government to get to employ more of these people, more of these people down places. Because Uganda has statistics say 70% of Uganda's population is youth. And if we are not, some still keeping an eye on the youth, but we don't have the what above them. So rather,
I'll ask the but since you are living
some are not choices, some are just practices. I will go with what is basic and currently happening, which is good violence. I would say more than generally. I know that one would say it's because of the political situation right now. I would against and say it goes way past. I remember when Parliament was discussing matters of missing persons. This person was taken just before we even began the whole campaign season on violence. I would so love it because it does not matter to me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And let's get back to you. Just as the whole of the campaign season, give you an opportunity to respond. It does not matter to me. Let's do it as well. We just want to thank you very much. And let's get back to you.
Alright, for the sake of institutional memory, as a member of Parliament, I still have unfinished business in the sexual offences bill, which was then was taken reading. And I'm hoping after election, before the House expires, we can save it under the Speaker's business and have it fully passed. Alright, for the sake of institutional memory, outside the sexual offences bill, things that touch my constituency, I was very much in a budgetary and after election, for example, healthcare. We have health centers that are in progress of being upgraded. I have been part of the process. We've done towards the Ministry of Health. Now my duty when I return to follow up and ensure that the allocations are done and actually the money are remitted to the district of government so that that work can come into progress.
Where is the district of health?
Now my duty when I return to follow up and ensure that the allocations are done and actually the money are remitted to the district of government so that that work can come into
I also want to welcome where is the district of health? I know today our speed is good. I also want to thank you for the audience for listening. So I think we shall not stretch much time. We shall try to be accurate and now to ensure that it is by 11. We shall be closing the debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen.
We shall not stretch much time. We shall try to be accurate and now to ensure
The
that
next set of questions is another critical area of budgeting. The budget will manifesto or whatever your focus is. The next issue is the budget. The budget is another critical area. Thank you for already discussed here. Issues the budget will know how manifesto will deal with the issue of budget or whatever your focus is. Candidates and administrators budget. How will you ensure national budgets respond to women's specific needs? How will you ensure that national budgets respond to women's specific needs? How will you ensure national budgets maybe also respond to the leaders what you've done for your needs? How will you achievements ensure how will you ensure national budgets? The budget speaks to women specific needs. Many times these figures and usually maybe also respond to the leaders what you've
the budget in the health sector and in the education sector. But outside that, even in the infrastructure development, so how I will be able to ensure that the budget response to women's needs is to follow up on our commitments as a country to the fund allocation. In the health example, we have commitments made under the Abuja Declaration on how much of our national budget is allocated to health, and that sector greatly affects women's needs. So is to follow up our commitment, monitoring and ensuring that government keeps up with its commitment will help me to ensure that we respond to women on how much healthcare, specifically maternity healthcare, infant healthcare, and the education sector. My achievements in ensuring that the budget speaks to women of Soroti so far, I'm very proud of the developments. For example, in the hotel center, that's not what it looks like in 2021 before I went to Parliament. All that has been the result of advocacy within the health committee. I have been directly in touch with the health committee, attending their meeting and ensuring that these health centers, these job, all are put in the budget so that they are elevated. And now there's all there for job. Likewise, there's so much development going on. And the same applies to our health center. Secondly, the area of water and water sanitation and hygiene, which directly affects women, especially women. I have been a member of the budget committee and program have held and advocated the national water for water to be stretched right down to town council and the areas surrounding it, because as a town council is entitled to be a recipient and a beneficiary of the SCAP program, the umbrella SCAP program. But from rural water, and I'm very proud that I've been able to secure some boreholes in Soroti district that help access to water, which directly affects them. Because when you see the division of household chores, women are more directly affected by access to water. The role of nurturing and taking care of the home that they will for very long periods.
Maybe for clarity,
Yes, Ministry of Water. Maybe I could just be specifically say, I believe in relation in Katie's has water that they will through my all that is to enable access to clean, safe, consumption, to ensure health and sanitation in the household sector. So all that touches women's issues, women's rights, and access to enjoyment.
Critics have accused some members of Parliament who have ambulances and those that give beds government accused some racial and other things and budgeted for using ambulance resources and those that give the beds running your road. You have it as failing some of these leaders now, government is like resources, very much ensure that they are budgeting and budget. Not easily, very explained. Remember in the budget process, you come and
to this day, even with the commitment of the head of state that we shall fix Aguara Road going to Serere, it has appeared in so many budgets and then in spirit. It has appeared in so many financial appropriate, but the issue of finding the money and making it available for those activities to happen is another issue which is not from the head of state. That is the business of members of Aguara Road outside our ambulance. Now, I plead guilty and then what you accuse us for providing women water, therefore finding the money and making it available. It is not directly my role as a but it also comes from my awareness of the challenges that we face and how much skills I have to try to support women and uplift them and change their lives. I came to the Soroti district in 2012. My daughter Carlos was a teenager pregnant. One of the worst circumstances. National data will show it's very important. Very, very, very important. I can take to Soroti district. I take to Soroti to I realized that many of these girls who are so pregnant have nowhere to go. They are really stranded. And many of them are not able to access medical care. And as a result, I think has so much infant mortality. That's why I cannot realize this and to encourage them because those are some of the challenges that the healthcare system when you go to the bus at a health center, a midwife is going to ask you for so many things. And looking at how poverty has really eaten up our people, affording these basics is a bit difficult for them. Coming from a humble background, a blessing, self-doubt, it's such a luxury. Just so you know, it's not the duty of a mother to carry class to hospital, but the status of our health sector is that a company does not make class available in time. So pregnant mothers have to buy gloves. No nurse will touch you if you don't have a pair of gloves. And you don't have a soap. I am moved by the plight of my people. That is why I do all these things. I do agree with you. It's not direct to my role as a bit, but it comes from the heart.
That takes me to gender responsibility.
I am moved by the plight of
What do you think
that is why I do all
should be the best way to cause gender responsibility?
but it comes
And how the blessing of this gender responsibility to this people? What do you think should be the best way to cause
the process of
gender responsibility?
is more like legislative process. You have to be
The blessing
and so many positions because look at it, here we have the national cake. Everyone wants a piece of it. You will take give and take. So you have to negotiate on the table. And that means you need a lot of support to negotiate on that you want. So when you're going to enforce gender is because of budgeting. Some of the underlying things that you need to do is to lobby. You say lobby. So you have to lobby to And really, that's how practically things are done right now.
Thank you.
Soroti
district also have many sub-counties and town councils that struggling with financing, especially the central government. Their budgets are wanting to be nothing. I know we have attended a number of council meetings, I don't know how many sub-councils, but town councils, as a member of parliament, we are in a land, especially to help these local governments. The budget is a budgeting process, because that's the idea of right. I guess some counties, where councillors, plan and city allowance, as a place of right housing. We are in a land, and we help these with the local governments. Budget is a budget for transport, because that's the idea, that's what it is. Because yes, counties, like they are very lucky on their councillors. How do you plan city allowance as a place of right? Okay, the budgets is local governments need you as members of parliament and how some running majority. That's what it is. Help them against counties, and they are very lucky on their councillors. How do you plan city allowance?
You really speak accurately.
The budgets is local governments need you as members of parliament.
I have been part of a process to enable our local governments, our local administrative units to take revenue. You know right now the status, all revenue collected is related to the consolidated fund. And then government, and then but it has to all facilitate. As people are working and ability of many local governments, including our very own Soroti district. The most critical thing is for government to recognize how underfunded our local government units are and allow them to collect and retain the revenue that they collect. Secondly, it's for remittances to be done timely. Many of the hospital governments will tell you that the money that they receive come towards the end of the hospital. It can be easily absorbed, and before you know it, it's taken back to the consolidated fund. So that money they have been available to immediately help our government. So that our representatives and local governments will tell us. So it's very critical for remittances from the central government to come in time. And it's kind of taking back to our strategy is to enable our people creatively think about sources of local revenue. For example, the markets. When markets exist, our people collect local revenue from those markets and are able to run challenges that are out there or construction last week, and they faced the challenge because the market was closed. So that would have been a small way for them to collect revenue from the county, but it's a lot of ways for example, they have been affected by market sessions in the city from Day Street and now around the revenue from the market and actually the revenue from the town. This one because it needs the city. So an issue of the
Let me get to candidate J1.
So I'll get back to you for the final question later.
Where do Kara current budgets can fail women most, particularly in the rural communities. Where do current budgets fail women most? Where do they fail, particularly in the rural and communities? Where do current budgets look at it?
Thank you very much, Peterson. I would say that they fail the women most when you do not pay more attention to the requirements and the rights of women as guided by affirmative action. Where we still are in a society where we recognize that women need another push for the household work, but even current budgets does not recognize that and pursue that if we are working, if we are making a budget for let's say in the health sector, and we say we want to develop the health center, which are the budgets. The budgets very much they fail the women most. I would not like more attention to what the women need most as opposed to what need to pay general attention. People might need the medicine, but women might need just the rights of women. They might need especially when it comes to maternity
What can those do? subject to the Soroti money. When you look at the Soroti district, this local government, some counties, town councils, the last challenges we face. What specific ones identify the key issues for Soroti district? Town councils, and maybe the general
As I know, because a member of parliament, the whole comes down to the counties and private children, but
Speak to some of the customers now. Two groups are counted. Speak for themselves. Another day. Those are the challenges we are facing. Maybe lastly, this issue of budgeting. Do you think the budgeting process is fair? The budgeting process, how fair is it? And how do you plan to make the people of Soroti district understand? Speak to some of the personnel or maybe from the national wedding. A few years ago, when it came in, the person that we do is values following the budget. We expected the prices to be another day. We are waiting to know. Those are the challenges we are facing. For the next time we look at prices are going to increase the definition of budget and administration. How do you plan achievement of parliament to make the people of Soroti fair? Understand the budget and the budget fair issues, and how you plan to bring in as much of parliament of Soroti on the number of issues which you understand the people of Soroti or maybe
the budgeting process
because That's what he was invited as one of the councils. You'll find out. But maybe I should wait for the and because people have to these issues. So let's say it's unfair. How these things they have no power or what can you do as a lady on when those challenges are not and they cannot really take this because they need you to say the more they first they will access the but as the following you are the concerning government, I don't know how to report the government because the government is the budget because the new seat in the end of this council so as the members of parliament when they start from the council that's what they was invited and how do you plan maybe I should be doing how do you try to list people how that's the way that how if this is conversation for you or what can you yes those issues that keep popping up when you have attended in the council meetings or nation how you outside of the community because they need to say you're moving every week the more they go council meetings but as you are the government I don't know how to report
so much.
governance of the political interests. How will you be able to be effective throughout without politicizing the
Thank you very much. So, based on my experience, one of my qualities as a leader that has been over time is my capacity to tolerate and to be as neutral as possible, to have a neutral perspective. My work as a member of parliament and executing my role and duties as a member of parliament does not in any way my political share are not in any, thank you very much, in conflict with each other. So I can hold government accountable by simply doing so. Just the same way in our Bolivians hold government accountable, it's the exact same way that I will. It's not about political share, but having an honest
call it statutory violation for the use of where our own goes to I want to bring such a the members of the House, especially the President, I'll ask
question to Mr. Wandozega is I'd just like to appreciate your courage in offering yourself to run for member of parliament. It's not an easy task. And I wish you well in your endeavors in life and on all your journeys ahead.
That means there is no question. Ladies and gentlemen, I have not received any question from my team, which means I had asked. You had an opportunity to ask for the papers. I said it an hour before. Ladies and gentlemen, let's learn to follow the guidelines and cooperate. I said it an hour before we came to this episode, and I have said you are free to cooperate with the person who was seated here and bring your representatives. So, I have not received any question. When the clock takes 6, and then you wake up, I had asked, it does not move the clock. We move on. You had an opportunity to ask. I have only received one answer here and an hour before. Ladies and gentlemen, let's learn to follow the guidelines and cooperate. I said it an hour before we came to this episode, and I have said, okay, you are free to cooperate with the person who was seated here and bring your representatives. I think this question, I don't think you know. If so, I have not received any question. When the clock takes 6, and this question is an answer, the court does not, so I'm not going to withdraw. That's why we normally, when we are having the honest for those who are attending, I want to receive one answer here as a committee that's asking for questions. Give to that lady. Ladies and gentlemen, Grace, she will screen them and deliver to us. We don't receive everything, because this one is a conflict, and we said it earlier that we shall not take anyone attempting to blackmail the other candidate. Okay. So, and nobody is allowed to come near me. If you're bringing your question, there is a table where you submit it. I said it. I said what it is. That's why we normally, when we are having the honest for those who are attending, I want to receive one answer here as a committee that's asking for questions. This question is directed to Honorable Legal John Grace. She will screen them and deliver to us. What is your take on receiving? Because of the number of MPs and the amount of money attempting to blackmail they earn monthly. Okay. Yet government service delivery is poor, especially here. And nobody is allowed to say that it was necessary for all questions to be answered. make reference to persons with disability. This one is directed to all of us. The percentage of growth, then the last one. This one is called the question from the boy Richard, aka Boy, from a church at some county, potential activists as well as development practitioners. I would like to ask Honorable Johan the current challenge that we have over in the current economy in Uganda is majorly income inequality. Make reference to persons. Which legislation aspects would you advocate to at least minimize such challenges? When you have the last one, that is from aka no. So, as a close curtain now, we are no longer resolving the question as well as and that transition makes me to. I would like to ask, I want to start from the Honorable the current challenge that we have also related to the current economic issue of Uganda.
Yes, I did. It reads, provide my stance on the national policy guidelines for sexual reproductive health as of 2017. So I think the question has particular reference to guidelines that I do not know the context of, but I know that legislation, issues of policy are usually issues of ministries and government departments. But I know that legislation touching the welfare of persons with disability. I have previously been engaged with NUDIPO, National Union for Persons with Disabilities, and personally, from my engagement with them and people with special needs under the same umbrella, for sexual reproductive health, their main concerns are about access to sexual reproductive health rights, equal enjoyment to the same, being that there are vulnerable groups of society. So for instance, if a health center has a maternity ward, then the delivery bed that it should take into consideration women with issues of disability, so that they are also able to, access the delivery bed, because many times the delivery beds are not covered. We maybe that's the meeting the other to carry them. National Union to
them and what is money. So I think as to the way, just as to the numbers, because when it comes to the numbers, I think we still need numbers. Because much as we have divided Soroti district, for example, 12 sub-counties, 3 counties, plus a one member of parliament, I have 4 members of parliament. I think this is to help decentralize, help them interact more with their roles and with the members, whatever they can have. I ran for the district as a member of parliament position, and it has caused me to have a higher parliamentary and if one all over the district is a challenge, then what about effectively another bigger challenge? So I don't have a problem with the numbers, I have a problem with the pay. So I think question 2, as to the way, I think it should be decreased, the decremental sub-content. Yes, because if you're having large numbers, and you pay them way, I think that affects you. Decentralized budgets, also there we have less resources and prioritize more. My second question was asked what legislation as of the parliamentary position can we use to manage income inequality? I agree with you that the person that asked this question that Uganda is going to communities income inequality. And I can tell you one of the biggest things that we should do, the legislation and legislation should go around the taxes that we are the taxes and the transfers. Recently, there was a discussion in Parliament where we were tax-free holidays, tax holidays, right? To rich companies rather. And I had a thing from who was very vocal on it. These are companies that have run as operating them. Have not even just because they were getting a little insolvent, government came in with a whole big tax policy. And I think that is where our problem is. So we should revisit the laws on taxes and transfers. We should also revisit the laws on labor, the labor and the regulations that are happening there and that are being used. We should, as a country, the parliament should be able to pass a maximum or minimum standard for wage to be given to a worker. Right now, Uganda is going through so many industries, and the current government is bragging about outside of them too. The many industries that are being built in Uganda, it's good. Many youth employed in these industries, but if everybody asking how much they earn, I once had an opportunity to talk to someone that was working for an organization, but a very known company in Uganda that are making hair, that are earning the person that are being used on social media as a country, 3,000 Ugandan shillings. They are being a maximum only 3,000 if you take away now to provide the work. And the Uganda is going to, so I think the income inequality and the current government is struggling to pay attention to setting a standard on the minimum wage. Uganda has also been fair enough where giving tax holidays because they are giving tax holidays depending on I once had owner of a company, and that is the Peter someone that was working for Uganda should also go ahead and look at social welfare that should be able to look into the workers, those working in Uganda and see those standards like equating to the regulations
I don't want to say much, but I would say that I have really liked interacting with you in this debate. It's one of the kind and also the tools you are returning this story and responsibility but you are also sure for small individuals. You are not bigger than the system, and the people are bigger than the people. And leaders, I hope you have that in your mind. They will not influence the interest of the people. Because I call you and you will come here. What words can we say to the team? We say that you are not going to say much. I'm sorry. I will decide. We also call for peace, interacting during this election. And pray for the violence. And as we get out of this war, we have our eyes. You are the top of this story. We have our eyes on the West responsibility as well as this election. But we are also sure that we are equal brothers to join the people of the past. We are not the people of the past. As far as we want to
We still have closing sessions. We are now heading to closing remarks for our candidates. But I ask that you don't prolong the debate, especially as a person who will make closing remarks. Because if you make statements again against your colleague, you will require again the other also to respond. And in closing remarks, the intention is that to give you an opportunity and to reply your ideas on issue. One issue to you, what is the other issues address the kind where you are present. We still have closing remarks.
Soroti district, I would like to reassure you that John Joseph is the best candidate for the Soroti district. John Joseph loyalty. John Joseph brings presence to have an open analysis and you have everything. Leadership is given. Thank you. Leaders are chosen by God. But you have
candidate Anandeke gets the closing remarks. We have someone that closing remarks will give us next time. Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful to you. What you see is one of a kind. Never had it before. Grateful to the legends, the very behind this. My presence here, waiting in the show, honor, your work, and so thank you for giving me our platform. All the media outlets that I broadcast and the live of the TikTok broadcast. Thank you.